by and large, the big picture was better Canadian public finances than we would have expected only a few months ago, with debts and deficits coming down faster than had been projected.
Welcome back to the Midweek Exchange. I'm Natalie Nanowski, and I'm joined by Brett House, Scotiabank's VP and Deputy Chief Economist. He's here to unpack some of those big economic issues that could be affecting you. Hi, Brett. How are you doing?
Hey, Natalie, I am doing all right, coping with these dark days of the middle of December. How about you?
Oh, me too. And I'm looking forward to Christmas. I want to talk to you today, though, about one of the big announcements we got this week. Yesterday, the federal government's fiscal update came out. What did we learn about how Canada is doing?
Well, this was, as you mentioned, just a fiscal update. It wasn't a mini budget with new initiatives being announced, and it certainly wasn't a full-blown statement of how the government expects to tax and spend over the next year. It was really just an update on how the numbers in public finances have evolved so far since the budget came in the spring of this year. And what we're seeing is that with growth a bit better than expected, oil prices a bit higher than we projected, the revenues that the government is collecting in terms of taxes are coming in above projections. They're using that to fund some additional spending to cope with the pandemic and to put aside some new measures that include the response to the BC floods and wildfires, some additional compensation to Indigenous peoples and children who are discriminated under the child welfare system, and some new responses to the Omicron variant. But by and large, the big picture was better Canadian public finances than we would have expected only a few months ago, with debts and deficits coming down faster than had been projected.
A little bit of good news there. And we did have another announcement on Monday. The government renewed the mandate with the Bank of Canada to keep inflation at 2%. What does this mean for the relatively high inflation rates that Canadians are now facing?
Well, as you're highlighting, inflation rates are well above the 2% target of the Bank of Canada, which was reaffirmed as its main or primary objective in the mandate renewal on Monday. That mandate renewal happens every 5 years, and it's the chance for the elected officials in Ottawa to exercise governance over the Bank of Canada, which on a day-to-day basis is an independent institution devoted to achieving that objective set for it by the government. This time around, when they renewed the mandate, most of it stayed the same in that the inflation target is unchanged at 2%, plus or minus a percentage point. But they introduced some additional language that talked about inflation being the primary objective, but maximizing employment being an additional concern for the Bank of Canada. And it's not clear that it rises to the level of a secondary objective, but it does lead us to think that it will be more important in the policy considerations of the Bank of Canada and possibly mean that it is slower to act to try to bring inflation back toward that 2% target in the future.
That is something we're going to have to keep our eye on for sure. And when it comes to next week, what should we be looking out for there?
Well, ahead of the Christmas holiday, we get October GDP numbers on December 23rd, which will be the last major monthly GDP print that will be free of the infection, let's say, of the Omicron variant, both in terms of planning, expectations, orders, and actual activity on the ground. So it will be a really good sign of the handoff from economic growth we have pre-Omicron and a baseline to compare how things develop over the next few months.
All right. Thanks so much, Brett.
Great to talk with you.
Great to talk with you too. And the Midweek Exchange will return in the new year.